I got an uncomfortable question for 49er fans and specifically for you. Could the 49ers upcoming extension negotiation with Nick Bosa get tricky, sort of like how it's getting tricky here? Now, the context is the Niners are trying to make it seem like Deebo's being emotional. He's being immature. I don't see it that way. I see this as business. Deebo understands that a lot of money is at stake. And part of it is in California, they take your money. The taxes are really, it's like 13 or 14% plus the rent and the real estate. And you just make more money elsewhere. And we're talking 15%. That's a big difference between what he could make on the Niners and what he could make on, say, the Dolphins or the Cowboys. And he knows that. And the Niners are in a tough position because how do you make up that difference when you're talking like, 30 million a year? How do you make up that difference? And Bosa's going to be even more expensive. Bosa isn't talking. He's not taking pictures down. He's not emotional, but he's a businessman too. What do you think? Is this going to get tricky? Could it get tricky?
Yes. And taxes have a lot to do with it. And the way that you would be able to sell this to Nick Bosa is if you have a deep playoff run this year with Trey Lance and like, do you want to be here? But the taxes have way more to do with this than people want to believe. And also,
it's not just taxes too. It's like you can't live out here. You don't want to live out here if you're not from here. The house is expensive. Yeah.
Also, Richard Sherman on his podcast, I feel like if anyone hasn't heard it, I feel like laid it out. For as many people that give Grant and I shit, about this like whole Parag thing, and we're talking about like Parag penny pinching, listen to Richard Sherman talk.
Yes.
And he said, I know about Parag. I know about this is the word. This is direct quote, haggling.
Yeah, his tactics.
And he's right. And he said he felt Deebo's taking it a bit more personally. But you got a precedent. George Kittle, DeForest Buckner, Fred Warner, not Deebo Samuel. Richard Sherman negotiated his contract by himself. Now what's going to happen with Nick Bosa? You got to play on your fifth. You're going to play on your fifth. But Parag is going to
do what Parag does.
Right. Start the conversation way too low. And at what point?
You can't do that to the Bosas.
Right. And at what point do many people in this organization that are players look at this and know what's coming? And then when you do it to them, they don't want to talk anymore. Right. I'm starting to put you in Deebo's mind frame right now.
That's right. At this point. And again, like this, to me, like this whole Parag thing was a necessary evil that players put up with because they didn't have leverage. I'm not in a position to get a guaranteed contract. I'm not going to get that much money. I have to sign a team-friendly deal. Fine, I'll talk to Parag. That's becoming less of a reality. Cap's going up. There's teams like the Rams that'll pay their stars. There's all kind of teams that'll pay their stars. And the teams that get in squabbles with their stars are the teams like Jacksonville. Oh, freaking Jalen Ramsey's the problem. He's not a leader. He's a diva, yada, yada. Rams are like, no, you're a trash franchise. You don't know what to do with good players. We'll take them off your hands. And the Rams aren't in a position to do that with Deebo right now, but they would love to if they could. They're not looking at Deebo being like, oh, this guy's a problem. You're like, it'd be perfect in our locker room.
And if that was in a different division, then for sure that would be something that would happen. But it's just it goes back to the way that this organization starts.
Where'd you go? Did we lose Jason? Did you lose me? Look at Jason. He's just frozen. Can you guys see Jason? Is it me or is it Jason? Someone clap twice if you can see Jason.
My bad.
Yo, he's back. All right. You're good.
Right.
You're good.
No, that was me. All right. No. So I think it goes back to the way that people look at how this is going, right? And this isn't my opinion. Let's look at the facts. George Kittle's agent considered the first offer from the 49ers, and he used these words. I'm not speculating here. George Kittle's agent said, St. Valentine's Day massacre. That's how bad the first offer was. So for everybody that's like, oh, you're blaming people that you don't know, it's there for you. Richard Sherman just confirmed it on his podcast, and George Kittle and his agent have. Just because Fred Warner didn't say anything about it doesn't mean it didn't happen. And just because Deebo's saying it now doesn't make him a diva. It's shining a light on the stuff that's already been happening for years with these players. So again, does it get tricky with Nick Bosa? For sure. But when they pull up and they want to give him less money than his brother or TJ Watt, he's going to be upset, and he has every right to be upset.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's going to express his emotions in any way on social media, but it doesn't mean that the Niners won't be in the same exact situation. So this is something to monitor. Remember, Bosa not at the 49ers offseason training program. Everyone's like, oh, that's cool. It means nothing. All right, but anytime Deebo does anything, people flip out. But when Bosa does something, it's whatever. Bosa's a team, he's this or that. We have no idea where Bosa's coming from. It seems like if he's a businessman, him and Deebo have a lot in common.
That's what I'm saying is because Deebo's doing this publicly, you are starting to believe that none of these other guys have been as upset as Deebo. And that's not true at all. Right. That is not true at all. Right. What's going on is just happening publicly. And you, if you're feeling disrespected as a fan or whatever, that doesn't make any sense because Deebo Samuel's not disrespecting you. And trust me, man, he should take care of himself. I'm sorry, 49er fans. He should not care about what you think at all in any way. But just because he's saying it publicly doesn't mean that any of these guys haven't felt it the same exact way. And just because Fred is doing the right thing and he goes to, off-season workouts, all that stuff, that doesn't mean that everybody has to move like Fred. Maybe you should give Fred more credit for being above it and believing in the process and stuff. But for you to be outing Deebo Samuel and talking crazy about him for the same things that these people have gone through is wild to me. That's wild.
Hold on, before we move on, I just want to look at something real quick. Fred Warner got $27.5 million guaranteed at signing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not that much. This is a whole different thing. Nick Bosa, Deebo Samuel, like, good for Fred for being a team player, but he wasn't negotiating like these guys. He's not making NBA money, all right? No offense to Fred. Deebo's going to be making NBA money. Bosa's going to be making NBA money, and this is going to have to be NBA negotiations, and that means that Paragh's going to get in the way. That's all I'm saying.
And that's why when you guys see numbers and you guys say, oh, a 5 at whatever number, like, oh, why wouldn't he take that? It's because it's a 1 or 2 year deal. Yeah. Everywhere, though. It's not just here. Everything's a 1 or 2 year deal. Get your money up front, and then everything is year to year. And I'll tell you this. This is a good thing for teams and players, these 1 or 2 year deals. I'll tell you why. If after 2 years, let's just say, God forbid, Deebo Samuel's injured and he's just not producing in the way that we thought. Okay, cool. The team has an out. But if Deebo Samuel's balling out of control and doing exactly what he's been doing after 2 years, he can come back and ask for a raise.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that everybody's structuring contracts in this fashion. So I don't get wrapped up in 5 years, 120. It's a 2-year deal. His guaranteed money's up front. And then after that, they're going to come back to the table, especially with the salary cap rising.
Jay says, no, Grant. I'm saying no way we get that much for Deebo. A former top 5 pick and first and 2 second rounders for a wide receiver, absolutely not. So what he's saying is that Larry is saying there's no way. Yeah, I would actually tend to be on your side, Jay. I don't think the Jets would offer all that much, although I don't know. I mean, the Jets might really, really want Deebo Samuel. Who knows? What do you think? I don't know.
I mean, again, think about the franchise.
You hold on to all those picks and you get fired in a year, then you just hoarded picks for the next team.
That's what I'm saying. And then think about the franchise, right? How they move. And no disrespect to Joe Douglas, right? Like maybe Woody Johnson is in there like, yeah, you guys got to do this, things and that. And I don't know how that hierarchy is. But then when you think about the Jets, Saleh, LaFleur, all that stuff fits in terms of everything. Corey Davis isn't going to be there next year. He would naturally fit right there in that way. So, and then when you think about the ineptitude of the franchise, I realize that Joe Douglas hasn't been there for all of those things. But Joe Douglas also, I'm glad you brought up the point about being fired. That's why when you're like, why aren't guys sticking with guys? Because if they don't win games this year, who cares about the development of that player later on when you're fired? That's why, like, I don't understand, like, when people are like, what are they doing? That coach needs to win games. The general manager needs to win games. Like, if you don't win games, it's a result-driven business. Who cares about warming up the seat for the next guy? So, yeah, the Jets are in there.
Lil Stewie says, happy draft day. Matthew Sanders says, even an upset Bosa, I don't see acting as vocal and visual as Deebo. Dangerous because if he gets paid, there'll be accusations of the big R word. Yeah, but what we're saying is he doesn't have to be vocal and visual to have the same problem with the 49ers. That's something you got to remember. He doesn't have to make a thing about it on social media.
Right, and that's the thing is Kittle didn't do any of that, but he was upset. Who knows what happened with Fred? Just because guys don't publicly tell you these things doesn't mean that they're not upset. And trust me, as tight as you believe this 49ers team is, 49er fan that's watching, they are, and they all talk. They all talk all the time about what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to say that.